Growing up, I was the perfect child. Like the kind you buy in a box. Certified, prepackaged, ideal daughter. My mother introduced me to her friends as her angel. I never defied my father. I let my brother torment me and bully me, and I emulated my older sibling, who at the time was my sister. I had this obsession with being normal, needing to be normal. I questioned all of my decisions, desperate for reassurance that I was making the right one. I didn't have the capacity to critically think and ask myself why I felt this way, why I was trying so hard to be normal. My normal was trying to be normal. I recently got the chance to ask my parents if they now recognize any signs that I could have been trans when I was a kid. Separately, for the most part, they both said no. And the reasons were because I never did anything deviant or anything out of the ordinary. When I think back now, the switchboard lights up like a Christmas tree. Or more appropriately, should I say, lights up like a Hanukkah bush. Yeah, anyway. Ever heard of the phrase about something being too good to be true? Yeah, well, that was me. It was as if every day I'd hear and see what the cool kids around me were doing and apply it to myself, hoping that it would make me more likable. I remember once when I was 10, begging my mom to buy me clothes from Hollister. That's what the popular girls were. Nicer, more expensive clothes, and they were liked. And my mom took me. But for some reason, wearing the Hollister branded clothes didn't make me more liked and didn't make me feel better. As I started to get older and become more aware of myself, I'd stay up at night with my eyes wide open and my body strained, trying to answer what seemed to be the most basic question. Who am I? I didn't know what my personality was. I didn't know what made me different, what made me special. I couldn't think of an original thought. I was everyone but me. A fake. A cheater. Right after I turned 17, my parents told me they were getting a divorce. And in short, it was nasty. I spent my senior year going in between both parents every other 2 days, but that was my decision. And also when I started to change. This illusion I held onto of a perfect family and a planned life was shattered. I had to learn that my mom never truly loved my father, and at 50 years old, finally built up the courage to leave him. At first, I was so confused. Why would she do that to him? To herself? After many hard conversations, I learned she got married because it was safe. Because she'd have a bed to sleep in, food to eat, and most importantly, a chance to be a mom. It took her more than 2 decades to stand up for herself, and at 50, decide to be happy. She left her normal, our normal. When my parents explained to me that it would be hard for some time, but ultimately, in the end, we'd all come out of it happier, I remember in that moment having an epiphany. Did that mean I was allowed to change? I was allowed to not be this perfect girl that I thought my parents wanted? That I thought society wanted? My life had always been about pleasing others and doing what was expected of me. Now I had grown to the point where I wanted to find myself. I needed to. And the first thing I did was pack up my bags and move across the country for college. I cried as I told my parents, not asked them, that I was going to do what I wanted to do, and I promised that I'd give it my all. They cried back. They told me they loved me, that they supported me, that they were proud of me, and that they trusted me. It didn't take long at all, just under a year for me to discover my trans identity. a good amount of trans people know from a young age, but I was too busy trying to play the role of girl number 2. Little did I know my parents would end up with no girls and 2 trans kids. But as I was coming out to the people around me, I was also still in the process of coming out to myself. And with that, I found myself falling back into the same cycle of doubt and trying to fit into the binary. I first identified as non-binary transmasculine, but not because that's how I actually felt, but because I didn't feel like my personality qualified me to be a man. I wasn't mean or commanding. I didn't objectify women. I was compassionate. I loved theater. Man, it all sounds so silly now, but that's how I felt. The male role models I had taught me how to be a man, and I didn't want to be like that. I'd finally realized my core values: kindness, respect, being a good listener, and I thought being a man meant those would somehow be lost. Through the help of YouTube activists, meeting more people within my community, and growing and maturing as an individual, I learned, I think, the most important lesson. Gender is a social construct. Now, I knew that before, but I didn't know the extent of it. Gender, as Western society uses it, deliberately creates a separation between men and women. It's meant to reinforce the social order, keeping women inferior and men superior. I didn't want to identify as a man because I didn't want to be another puppet of the gender binary. But as I learned more about how gender is really what we make of it, I learned my holding back of identifying as a man played a role in reinforcing those norms. Men can be caring and emotional and affectionate, and what makes me a man is identifying as a man, not following how I think a man is supposed to act. And if I wanted the rest of society to see this truth, this fact, I needed to be the change. Stop the cycle. Be deviant. Be out of the ordinary. Be different. Special. I'd like to finish by reading a portion of a journal entry I wrote in December of 2019. My biggest issue throughout my transition has been the little annoying voice at the back of my head going, "Are you sure this is what you want?" What if instead of a young trans man trying to match his physical appearance with how he feels inside, you're just a psychopath who should be locked up in an asylum? It sounds awfully ridiculous, doesn't it? Screw that little man thing spitting lies into my head. He knows nothing. I know that I would not have put myself through absolute hell if it didn't all mean something. I am not crazy. I am very mature and self-aware at 20 years old. I figured out what I needed and wanted and did something about it. I'm going through one of the most difficult changes a person can go through while in college 3,000 miles away from home. I think I'm pretty awesome. Believing this is what I'm working on now. There's a lot of self-hatred and internalized transphobia I've still got to unpack and throw away, but I'm getting there. All good things take time. I can now happily say that little man thing has shriveled up and died. I've gone from thinking about my gender and if I was doing it right most hours of the day to spending my time thinking about more important things. My family, my friends, school, social justice. As you can probably tell, I'm a pretty open person. I choose to be vulnerable so people can get comfort if they can relate, and also to build a bigger community. I'd love to hear a story from your life that you might have thought of while listening. Maybe a moment when you realized you were allowed to break free. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived.